Hello New Zealand, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our extended video as we cover the Antarctic blast and also the end of September and the start of October. Believe it or not, October is just around the corner. We're kicking off with the wind map, and today the misery index is added to it for obvious reasons. Before we get into the cold stuff, I want to just mention the red over here because it's going to make you understand this map a lot more. So the red over here, this is the feels like temperature. It feels, when you see red, it feels like 30 or 40 degrees Celsius. Really, truly tropical weather. So plus 30, plus 40 up there in the red. Here in the white, it's the opposite, minus 30 to minus 40. That's the wind chill coming out of Antarctica. The Antarctic ice shelf is down here, so this extends a long way north of Antarctica with that minus 30 to minus 40 wind chill. Now, once it leaves that area, it gets into the minus 20s, and then as it comes into Southland and Otago at sea level, the wind chill is between minus 3 and minus 11 or 12. So that's very cold stuff. Now, you might have heard some silly numbers, minus 20 that NI was putting out. NIWA shouldn't be doing weather. That's Met Services' job. The New Zealand government's wasting $200 million a year on a double up for no reason because NIWA's doing clickbait. The minus 20 that they're talking about, it's on the tops of the mountains like Mount Cook. No one lives there. It's totally irrelevant to be talking about minus 20. But the minus 5s, the minus 10s, and even the minus 12s and 13s, they are going to be in areas where people live and farm. So this is very serious stuff around Southland and Otago and the highlands of Canterbury. And you've got strong winds on top of that. This is the air pressure map, 936. We've seen other numbers down to 933 this morning. These are estimates. We don't fly hurricane hunters through them like they do up in the Atlantic. And speaking of the Atlantic, Hurricane Laura, which just hit the United States, got down to 937. That's not as deep as this. And that was a Category 4 hurricane, which in South Pacific terms would have been a Category 5. So that's the reason why this storm is getting so much attention. But if you're up here in Auckland, in the top of the country, you're on the outer edges of the worst of it. So you've just got a lot of normal spring weather, although Tuesday is going to be windy in Auckland and there could be a couple of isolated power cuts. But the worst of the storm is certainly from about the central North Island southwards, and it's Southland and Otago that are really getting the wintry blast. Here's the rainfall totals for the next 2 days coming up. This is Monday and Tuesday. The bulk of the wet weather you can see is in Southland and along the west coast and the southwestern corner. That's where the totals are between 20 and 50 millimetres of rain. The dark blue and the green you see around the north and the east, and similar story around the South Island. That's just a few showers and a few spits coming over. Maybe a couple of isolated heavy showers, but they're moving so fast they won't linger. We've got a fair bit of snow on the way. The bulk of it coming down to the south here, but also falling around Central Plateau, the Desert Road, maybe State Highway 5, Napier to Taupo, and around National Park. So just keep an eye on that. There will be flurries there. Heavy snow, maybe up to a metre of snow on the very tops of the mountains. Otherwise, you're talking around about 50 to 75 in the pink. And then down here in Southland, the numbers vary. It's very hard to see, but just around Gore and Invercargill, you're actually going back to the blue, 4 or 5 centimetres. We'll do a close-up. This looks like something out of Rain Man, but it's these numbers are very useful if you can see them on the screen. They're a little hard to read, I'm sorry. But up in the mountains, that's 110 centimetres of snow between now and the end of Tuesday. So that's a lot. That's coming through over the next 2 days. That's a metre of snow up in the mountains. But when you're lower down and you're sort of looking where people live, it's a different story. So Stewart Island, 5 centimetres to 1 or 2 centimetres around there. On the coastal parts of Southland, we're seeing numbers like 1 up to 5, 9, 14, more 9s and 7s over here. And when you get into the more hilly areas, lots of 18s and 24s around there. So it does look as though you've got anywhere between a few centimetres up to about 25 centimetres of snow coming for Southland, and then around over in Otago, similar numbers, but the mountains here, the bigger ones, 45, maybe 50 centimetres of snow that you can see in the pink shading. So there are some areas will get quite a bit of snow coming through, and certainly there is a risk of sea level snow, but it's hard to accumulate it down there because the sea kind of melts it at the same time, and often there's a rain mix in there as well. Here's also the feels like map or wind chill. The areas in the north here, they're quite cool, but nothing too major. That's in the +5 to +10 area, but really what we're looking at is the pale blue all around the South Island. That's putting you into -5 to -10 in a number of places. The clickbait stuff Nee was talking about, the dark blue, that's the tops of the mountains. That's where you're getting into that -15 to -20. So very, very cold weather for Tuesday and tonight around the South Island. Let's get into the forecast now. Here is Tuesday's setup. The low down here now starting to weaken, getting a few other air pressure points around it that stretches the energy out. But the main Antarctic blast arrives on Tuesday. It's at the end of this whole system, and it comes with a surge of gale force winds. So blizzards are possible, whiteout conditions, wind chills down to -7 to -10 in populated places like Gore and Dunedin. And then we've got further to the north, windy weather up to Auckland. Like I say, Auckland's on the outer edges of the system, but you might have severe gales for a time around Tuesday, so there could be an isolated power cut or two. By Wednesday, high pressure is starting to move in, the winds are easing, and in fact frosts are likely to be back into the forecast in sheltered areas. Also, down here in the south, you'll start to notice the temperatures going up. You'll feel it even more on Thursday because they're basically nor'westers and they're coming out of the subtropics. They're coming out from Brisbane, Queensland area. So that's a nice warm up after this cold start. So at least October's kicking off on a mild note in the south, although it might be a little bit frosty in the north. Just be aware of that. By Friday, more mild weather coming in around the North Island. That should reduce any frost risks. Same in the South Island as the windy west to northwest winds return. And they really kick off this weekend because our first weekend of October dominated by high pressure to the north and these winds up here curving around and coming down across the South Island. So that means it'll be mild. In fact, it'll be warmer than average in a number of places by this weekend. I have to say, these high pressure systems, not good news for Auckland. The water crisis continues as the high pressure zones continue there as well. Before I go, just a reminder, we've got the automatic wind chill calculator. You can go to ruralweather.co.nz, click on the temperature button here, and it will open up the graph. So you can see on the icons if snow is in here. This is for Gore, Southland as an example. Snow flurries forecast today. Snow definitely on Tuesday with a high of 2 and a high on Wednesday of 8 and then 13 and then 16. So that's that warmer airflow coming in. And when you drag your mouse along these, it will show you in blue the wind chill, which is, by the way, getting down to -3 or 4 for Gore most of the days, over the next couple of days before it warms back up. So go to Rural Weather for the wind chill and the snow icons. And if you need all the news stories, weatherwatch.co.nz. Our 3 stories this morning have a total of 31 maps. So there is no shortage covering the gales, the temperatures and the snow. So you'll find everything you need at Weatherwatch and Rural Weather. All your questions should be answered. That is all from me. We will see you again on Tuesday with our next update.